Hi weaving friends, great to be here with you again. If you watched last week's video, it was all about how to double your warp using only one cone of yarn and doing it really quickly and effectively so that you could skip the threading step. Now, I did get some feedback from some of you, and thank you for that, that you needed to see what was happening at the loom, particularly at the heddle as I was threading a little more closely. So what I'm going to do in today's video is pretty much what I did last week in the video, but I'm going to slow it right down. We're going to have a lot of close-ups. You're going to be able to see exactly what I'm doing step by step for those of you who need it, so that you can have the confidence to try this yourself. Before I get started, there is something that's been weighing on me, and I just want to get it all out there and share these thoughts with all of you. Not all of the feedback that I get is positive. That goes for any YouTuber. But in particular, some of you have complained that my videos are too slow, that I talk too much, that I explain too much. Okay, so what I want to say about that is that's fine if you have that opinion. And what I encourage you to do is to find someone who can help you in a way that suits you better. Not every teacher is going to be the right teacher for the right student at the right time. And certainly my way of doing things is not going to suit everybody. But there's something else that I really want you to consider. And that is that I've talked about this extensively. Not everyone learns in the same way. So I could show someone how to do something really quickly and they get it and they're off and racing. Somebody else needs to see it slowed right down, step by step. Then they can have that confidence to go ahead on their own. We all have different learning styles, and this channel is here for everyone. I want everyone to know that if you want to learn to weave, you can do it. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are. It doesn't matter what your education is. It doesn't matter what your personality or your lifestyle is. If this is something that you really want to do and that you're prepared to practice and persevere, you can do it. For those of you who do need things slowed down and you feel like it takes you a long time to learn new things, your way of learning is no less valid than the person who gets it straight away. What counts is the fact that you are showing up and giving it a shot, and that you do really want to learn, and that if you continue and put in the effort, then you will get the results. I guess it really bothers me when I get comments about things being too slow, or that I've put way too much into a video that only needed to be a short video, because to me that shows a complete lack of consideration for other people, for different learning styles, for different situations. It shows a complete, actually, lack of kindness. And although the past couple of years should have taught us all how crucial it is that we all support each other and that we are kind to each other, we unfortunately seem to be going in the opposite direction. So yeah, this makes me a bit cross. It makes me a bit disappointed that people aren't more willing to make allowances for other people who may not have the same advantages or opportunities. To be completely honest, I don't want to see any of that here on this channel. This is, to me, a happy place, a safe place, and a positive place for learning. Don't think that there aren't things going on in my life, that I could come here every single week and rant and share all of these negative things. But when I come here, I leave all of that behind, because that's not what this channel is about. So if you're one of those people who has no patience for other people's learning styles, and you watch here, then I would just suggest that either you seriously think before you leave a comment, or that you find another channel or teacher who is more suited to your particular style. One thing that I have loved so much about weaving since I started is just the community, that I've found the weaving community to be particularly kind and willing to share and encourage others. I certainly see that in my members community, my private members community. The unfortunate thing about growing a YouTube channel is that you will get more and more people, and then you'll be more likely to get a wider variety of people, and then these things start to happen. So anyway, I don't want to go on about this for too long. I'm sure someone will criticize me for sitting here talking about it in the first place. But I think it's really important that I mention this, and just to reiterate that whatever your learning style is, whoever you are very welcome here. And I hope that I can help you to find success in all the things that you want to learn in weaving. Okay, well, I think I've really made my point there, and I think that we should get on with today's slow tutorial. So if you don't like slow tutorials, you might want to click away right now. In the last video, I showed you how I had my loom set up. So I am warping from my stand. You may have your loom clamped to the table, that's fine. And how I've got my single cone of yarn that I intend to use, and it's set up on the floor. I use a cone stand. You don't have to use a cone stand. I got by without one for many years until my wonderful husband made me this one. But the main point here is to have your yarn steady so that it's not constantly falling over and rolling away, which is really frustrating. So that's the first step, is just to have your yarn underneath. You may also want to have your width marked out on your heddle. So that would be the width of the project that you want to weave, and you can just have that marked out with some waste yarn, and then you don't need to count and recount every time. So to start, I'm just going to pick up a single strand of my yarn, and I'm going to tie it onto the apron rod, just in a double knot so that it's nice and firm. And I'm tying it behind the point where I've got the marker on my heddle. So where I want to start actually threading my heddle. I also just make sure that my back break is on, and it is, so that's fine. This is my first marker right here for the width that I want to do, and then I've got another marker of the same color. I've just used waste yarn to do that. So I can pick up my thread that I've tied onto my apron rod. Okay, still a single piece of thread. I want to go through a hole first. You don't have to go through a hole first, but that's what I want to do for this project. I want to have it ending on a hole on either side. And I talk about that in another video, about getting more even selvages by threading in a hole on either side. So I'll link to that video down below in case that's interesting as well. Okay, so I'm just going to insert the threading end of my hook, so my double-ended threading hook, into the hole, and I'm just going to pull that thread through. So you'll notice when I pull it through that I have a loop instead of a single thread, and that's exactly what we want, and that is what's going to allow us to double those ends. Doubling the ends is a great thing to be able to do. So what I'm using here is a 12.5 dent heddle, and I've got 8/2 cotton. If I threaded it just singly, that is one thread through every hole and slot instead of the two that I'm going to end up with, then it would be a very sparse fabric. It would be set very far apart. And that's fine if that was what you wanted. If you wanted a really light and airy fabric, that would work. But when I'm wanting to do something more dense like kitchen towels, then I will double up the threads like I'm doing here. So once I've got a hold of that loop, I'm going to bring that straight to my peg. You don't have to hold your threading hook into that loop. You can substitute your finger if that's easier to kind of pull out. And now I've just realized I've got black on black, haven't I? I'm wearing black and I've got black thread. Well, I used black thread so that it was going to be more visible at the heddle. So that part of it's going to work. But the fact that I'm wearing black is not very helpful. Hopefully you can see that I'm placing this black thread, the loop, on the peg. So that's my first loop, and I've pulled it through the hole. The next loop is going to go through the slot. So let's have a look at how that's going to work. First of all, we're going to come back to the apron rod at the back of the loom. And now the thread is sitting underneath the apron rod. And so I'm just going to pull the next loop up towards the heddle. Once I've got my loop, I can insert the reed or the slot end of the hook. So that's the thicker end. I'm going to insert that into the very next slot that follows that hole that we just threaded. Into there, and then I can pull my loop through, and either with my finger or with the hook, either way, I'm going to take that to the warping peg. We go back to the apron rod at the back. This time the thread is sitting over the top, so I just pull it over so that I have a loop once more, and then I'm going to find the very next hole that is next to the slot that we just threaded. And I'll pop the thin end of my threading hook through. I'll pull the loop through, and I'm going to grab it with my finger to make it easier, and then I'll pull that to the warping peg. Let's have a look at how this looks from behind the loom so that you can see me pulling up those loops to be threaded through the heddle. All right, so the next one has gone underneath the apron rod, right there. I'm going to pull it around towards the heddle, which naturally draws up a loop. The next one I'm going to thread, I just threaded a hole, so the next one's going to be a slot. So then I can pop my thick end through, put the loop on the hook, and then just pull through. And then take that to the warping peg. Again, we'll come to the back. Now this thread is sitting over the apron rod, so I'm going to pull from underneath to get my loop. Okay, I've got my loop, and then I need to look and see that the next threading is going to be a hole. So I'll put the thin end through, I'll put the loop on the thread and pull through, and then take that to the warping peg. So when you're doubling the warp in this way, what you'll end up with is between your two markers, my first marker is here, and the other marker, I will end up with every slot and hole between my markers filled, and each one will have a doubled thread in it. Here we go, just checking that it's doubled. And the slot threads, they're all doubled too, so 2 threads going through each one. And then when you get to finishing, once you have rolled your warp on, you don't have to thread because the threading is already done. You've done that in the process of doubling the warp in this way. So I hope that this has helped you if last week's video was a little too fast or not close up enough for you. If you still have any questions or need any clarification on anything that you've seen today, please do let me know. Leave me a comment down below and I'll get back to you. Well friends, thank you so much for joining me, and until next time, happy weaving.